So let's talk about probates. So before we get into probates, let me tell you the two reasons why probates are the perfect scenario for wholesaling. Number one, most of the houses are run down, if not outdated. So think about this. If you've ever had an elderly person in your family, we all go through it at some point. It sucks. Like, trust me, I don't like the stigma of probate because it's not a fun subject. But the reality is if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it for you. And that's what I found out the hard way. So basically, most of these houses, when people get older or they're sick, they're going to concentrate on the quality of life. They don't care about the house. So the houses get outdated. Maybe grandma was in the house 40, 50 years and it looks like a time warp. That's my typical deal. Or the house is, they didn't quite fix the roof because it wasn't in the budget because they were taking care of their loved one. So you have to have a heart when dealing with probate. So most of them have a lot of deferred maintenance, a lot. And why is that important? Because it's very overwhelming to the person in charge of selling the house. And that's typically why they're going to reach out to some sort of cash offer, hence you and me and a wholesaling. The second reason why I love it, why it's perfect for wholesaling, is predominantly these houses are vacant. And well, why is vacant important? Why? It makes it super, super easy to sell your contract because you can take buyers in and out of there. And honestly, you usually get very little resistance from the sellers. Now, I always ask for permission. I don't do anything. I don't assume I get permission, but having a vacant house and having one that needs repairs, if you can get those two criteria plus a motivated seller, they hands down are the best deals out there. On average, my probates have a 3 times profit of a typical assignment in my company. I know this, I have the stats for it, and it's not only in my market, it's predominantly across the entire country. It has at least a twofold effect. And when you get more advanced like me and you spend a lot of time negotiating with people, you can 3 times your profit level. And for those 2 reasons alone, they are perfect. The biggest challenge we have to deal with people on getting wholesale deals, sometimes there's not a lot of repairs that need to be done to the house. They just want their money. And number 2, the home is occupied and it's very, very stressful to even take one cash buyer through that. Probates solves it all like completely. Now, the downside of probates, they take time, and they don't take time so much for the reasons you think they are, is probates, people have to go through a process. So the first thing you have to understand probates is you can't rush them because every other investor and realtor wants a quick, decisive answer. You have to be the opposite. And I know that's contrary to what we teach at freewholesaling.com, but we do a special section in there just for probates. I'm telling you, dude, I never discuss price on my first phone call with them, ever. I don't care because you're going to turn them off right away. And until you get a relationship with them and even qualify them, why even mess around with the price? So understanding the 2 reasons why they're perfect for wholesaling. I love probates. You're not doing probates, you're missing. Here's why most people fail at probates. You ready? They get super excited. They go get their list. They send out their letters. They cold call. And after 30 days, you know what they all say? Rick, it didn't work. Okay. Tell me how it didn't work. Well, I got 2 phone calls. That's it. I got 2 phone calls. And they weren't even close to qualify. Okay. Quit. 95% of people quit probates in their first 30 days. And the other 5% quit within 60 or 90 days. That's the difference, guys. That's my big secret here. I'm telling you, you have to be extremely consistent. It's only 50, 60, 75 leads. And what I like to do is cold call and send a letter. And I'm going to go into detail. I know I'm jumping ahead here, but it's not complicated. And the other reason why you guys are so scared to do it is because you think probate's a very daunting task. So I'm here to tell you, it happens to everybody. Nobody is immune from it. So when somebody passes away and they own a property, it has to go through probate. There are exceptions to it. I'm not here to get into like the minor rules. So let's jump through. So the first thing to solve your problem, and this was my biggest hiccup, is I thought I had to know everything about probates. I need to understand them legally. I need to understand how to read the title, how to read the docket. And I'm here to tell you, don't even bother because you're never going to figure it out. So here's what you do. You're going to assemble basically a team. And are you technically hiring the team? You're just networking with the team. So they don't cost you anything. So if you think it's going to cost you an arm and a leg, forget about it because they only make money when you make money. So that's how a team is. A team either wins together or they lose together. So let's talk about your team. The team is simple. The first person on your team, which is the most overlooked one, is your local probate courthouse. Why? Because I didn't know a damn thing about probate until I sat in the court. I sat there 45 minutes 3 times and I had a nice little old lady help me and she walked me through the whole thing. And I got to tell you guys, without her help, it would have taken me years to figure this out. I didn't understand it. And remember, each courthouse does it a little bit differently, even in your own state. So they will drive you nuts. So it's very hard to scale probate. Like if I want to do 100 counties, I would have to have a massive team. So understanding that not everybody can jump in your county and do probates. So number 1, your local courthouse, get to know the people there and they'll teach you because number one, they're paid with our tax dollars. Number two, they're there all day. So you might as well get the benefit. And if you understand how it works, you can help solve a lot of issues on how to read the dockets, how to get the information. How do I not violate your privacy policy? I know it's public information. And guys, do that part because a lot of you, step two on finding your team is you have to use a local title company. And I stress the word local because if you're using one of these national title searches, it's going to be very difficult. I'm not saying you can't do it, but a local title company will explain how the probate works in your county and what pieces of paper need to be signed, notarized, and authorized by a judge or some sort of clerk to get your deal to the closing table. It is absolutely critical. They are just as important as the courthouse. Work with your local title company. Now, you want to find one that's investor friendly. If you don't know how to do it, just go to Flip with Rick and search in there how to interview a title company. I have some amazing videos on it. And honestly, I've spent more time with title companies than a lot of people. And there's just simple questions you ask. And if they don't answer the questions even remotely, just move on. So the title company is key because I have to get documents pushed through lawyers to get the property to the closing line. And what I do is I talk to my title company. They are like instrumental. The third person on your team is either going to be a probate lawyer or a real estate attorney. Now, don't panic. I'm not telling you to go out and hire them and pay big money, but please don't waste their time because they're not going to help you if there's never a promise or an inkling of getting business from them. So mostly lawyers will meet with you from 15 to 20 minutes for 100% free. But man, you got to be organized and ask the right question. And here's a little cheat. Most title companies have some sort of affiliation or owned by a real estate attorney. And then you can ask the title company who does the most amount of probate work with title on any of these properties, and they'll point you in the right direction. Now, keep in mind, the lawyer is giving you information based on the quality of questions you ask. If they're dumb questions, they're not going to take you seriously. And number two, if there's no promise of them ever being hired for a probate file, it's going to be a very short conversation. So I always try to help everybody on my team benefit. Now, the courthouse, unfortunately, they are tax-paid employees, so I just try to make their lives easy. And then typically what I'll do is either bring them donuts or like some bagels or something like that. That's still a good way to stay in good faith with the title company. So guys, here's the key is you don't need to know everything about like probate. Stop trying to know everything because you're never going to do it. To this day, I had a question last night on a probate. I didn't know the answer. I had to work with my title company and they are working on it today. And actually, when I get off this live, I got to jump on that. So the days of trying to know everything about probate, you're wasting your time. You have one single job to find sellers whose houses are on probate that want to sell their property. If you master that, the rest you use your team to help you out with. And I promise you in a year or two, you're going to know 90% of everything that happens in probate, but you'll never know it all because I've been doing this 20 years and probate still shocks me to this day. Now, we'll talk about the time length and everything like that. So let's talk about the process to get started in probates. It's really not difficult. All you have to do to get started in probates is this simple thing. Just go get the leads. You're going to have to go down to your courthouse and pull the leads or request them online. Now, if you go in person, you're probably going to have a much better luck because you'll deal with a live staff member and it's hard for them to turn you down. Now, they're going to play games with you. I'm just going to forewarn you right now. You're going to get resistance. This is probably one of my number one complaints on here. And guys, I don't run these courthouses, but they are inundated with realtors and people trying to sell the list, wholesalers. It never stops. Data aggregators, and they're trying to put a stop to it. So all the information is public. That's not debate. The challenge is their privacy policy. And every courthouse has a different one. And for that reason, they're going to drive you nuts. You overcome resistance with persistence and you have to kill them with niceness. You're not going to get anywhere shaking the FOIA stick. Freedom of Information Act, honestly, it's a bluff. And I actually regret teaching that method years ago because nobody takes you seriously anymore. So you have to kill them with kindness and you got to just keep being persistent. It's really annoying. I know. If you can get over this hurdle, probates gets a lot easier. You have to get the leads. So there's only, in my opinion, there's only two ways to get the leads. Either go down in person or you get them online. Guys, do not get them from a third party. I'm not talking about using listrei.com, using the pre-probate method. That's completely different. That's a way you can do it, but that's a different type of technique. The best leads in probates are ones that are just freshly filed. And I get this question a lot. Rick, how often or how soon should I reach out to them? And I'm here to tell you, once they file that probate, they have made the emotional decision decision most likely to move forward with the property, and that's the best time to hit them. Now, a lot of you are super creative and hustlers, and I love it, but I'm not a big fan of calling off the obituaries. It's just too soon. Put yourself in their shoes. Do you want somebody calling you off an obituary? I would never give you the time of day if you called off of one of my family members with that. I would make sure I would never do business with you. So I look at calling off obituaries like spamming. It doesn't work. I love the idea, but I'm telling you, it doesn't work, and you are just going to piss people off when you do it. So please keep that in mind. So once they file the probate, you are open to communicate to them. So how do we connect with them? The best way, hands down, is to call them. Now, for the longest time, I was completely against calling people in probate. I thought it was animal chasing. I just let my ego and pride get in the way. And by not doing that, I lost a lot of deals to realtors. Like, they were really aggressive on the phones. And when my son joined my business, he says, Dad, I won't cold call him. He goes, I'll warm call them. I'm like, okay, I like that. And when he did that, we changed our whole perspective on how we do it. And I'm here to tell you, the fastest way to connect with us is a cold call. It is an awkward conversation. You want to learn more how to do it, go over to freewholesaling.com. And I would love to, anybody who wants to role play, I'm happy to do that today, specifically on probates. But honestly, you just call them. And here's the secret, guys. I'm just an average Joe when I call them. I don't talk about the probate unless they want to go there. Simply see if they have interest in selling the house, and then I let them expand on it and go from there. Do not say, hey, I saw your house is in probate. You know, what's going on? Because you're just going to tick them off. So on top of calling them, I love to mail to them. It's cheap, it's fast, it's effective, and you control the printing in your own home. You just go over to freewholesaling.com. I teach everything. I actually have a probate letter template that I spent a lot of years testing out. I've done a lot of deals off of it, at least 300 plus on that letter alone. And it has a unique spin on it. And I'll share it at the end of this video here. But go ahead and check that out. It's over there. But the mailing to them. So if you look at it like McDonald's, Burger King approach, I do this all the time with you guys, but like in my perfect world, I'd get my fries from McDonald's and I'd get my Whopper, the burger from Burger King. Why? Because that's what I like. I find Burger King's, and guys, I don't eat fast. I eat fast food maybe 2-3 times a year, and I regret it every time I eat it. But anyways, what I'm saying is sometimes they will react to your phone call, and sometimes you piss them off so much a phone call, and then they get a letter and they respond. You get a lot of older people that like the respect of the letter, and it works very, very well. So here's a little hint. If you have your letters, copy what I do at freewholesaling.com and make sure you sign your name on the bottom in blue felt ink. I've tested this, guys. It is hands down. It just puts that personal touch on it that they're actually going to deal with a person. And guys, get rid of your fancy business names on these cards. If it's Richard Ginn buying the property, then I'm going to put people want to connect with you personally. They don't want to deal with like a big business. I'm just here to tell you. So mailing to them is very, very simple. You can do a mail merge and spit it out once or twice a week on how to do it. Now, you're doing the McDonald's Burger King approach. And here's another little trick. I often use different names on who's calling versus who's mailing. Why? Because if Zach Ginn called and pissed them off, the last thing they're going to do is respond to a letter from Zach Ginn. Now, I might do Rick Ginn. I might do one like, I probably just do Rick Ginn and tell him my son's crazy, you know, and that's how I did it for years. I'm like, yeah, I apologize. He's a little more aggressive. I'm different. We're two separate operations, and that's it. McDonald's, Burger King, it works very well. Now, when you get them on the phone, it's actually, here's the simplest way I can explain probates to a beginner. Just take your time. There is no time frame to call them. I've had people talk to me hours. And as long as there's a hint of motivation going through the MCTP, motivation, condition, timeline, and price, I will stay on the phone with them, because the more phone time you get, the better you connect with them, because you're rarely ever going to see these people in person. And it works really well when it comes to the final negotiation. So use the 80-20 rule. So the 80-20 rule simply says you let the seller, the representative, talk for 80% of the time, and you only talk 20. And make sure you have good quality questions on your 20. Why? Dude, here's the deal, dude. People love to talk about themselves, and you need to utilize that, because if you dominate the conversation, you get no information back. So using the 80-20 rule, and I want you to understand this, guys, the average time to get a contract on a probate is between touch 5 and 6. I never get them 1 through 4 ever. Why? Because I take my time, because I let all the other wholesalers try to run them over, and I just make it easy. Guys, do you realize death is an extremely stressful event? And the last thing you want to do is mimic that stress in a probate situation. So they tend to gravitate towards people that are listening to them, taking their time, and hearing out what they want to accomplish. If you can do that, you have a great shot at probates, even if you know nothing about them. Guys, I did one of my biggest probate deals when I knew nothing about about doing it. All I knew is I needed to connect with people that own properties in some sort of probate process that are willing to sell. That's it. That's your job. Stop trying to learn everything. This is not high school. This is not college. And by the way, this is what will pay you. That other crap's not going to pay you anything. I'm almost done. And obviously, you get it under contract for the right price. I rarely ever miss on a probate because you get a lot of information, and usually they're much more negotiable in my opinion, and you got to get it at a discount price. And honestly, once you have it under contract, it's super easy after this. You don't have to do anything different than what I've taught you in normal wholesaling. In fact, if you have a vacant property that needs repairs and you got a good discount on it, this is actually the fun part because here is the secret. Most probates take on average 90 to anywhere to like 180 days to get through for one reason or another. It could be the judge, it could be the lawyer, it could be the real estate agent, whatever it is. But here's the luxury as a beginner you have to understand. If I get it under contract and then I'm just waiting for a judge to approve the final sale of the house, that could take a month up to 3 months. I use that time frame to my advantage. Why? I can bring 30 sellers through there, buyers through there if I want. I'm going to get the highest price and I'm not even going to worry about it. So most of the beginners that start out wholesaling, the biggest stressful point is I've only got 2 weeks. I've only got 30 days to get this thing sold. And I get it. You have no cash buyers list, stuff like that. So imagine if you get a probate under contract and you don't have a cash buyers list, which is quite normal, by the way. You have plenty of time to find a buyer for that property. End of story. I don't even worry about it. I've actually waited up to 2 years for a probate, and I'm very creative in how I do the contracts because I tell them I can't sign the contract until the probate's approved within 30 days. That way I get the highest and best offer. So what I'm telling you is probates takes the stress of that ridiculous inspection period because a lot of times you have anywhere from 60 to 180 days to sell it. And if you have a vacant property, guys, that is a dream. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, take full advantage of it because I don't know any other types of leads that you get this luxury in. Actually extremely rare. So when I have a probate, I am always super excited because I'm typically going to vacant. I know they're run down and I know I'm not under extreme stress to sell it. And we always get the highest price. That's why I get triple the profit I get on a probate deal because I can almost sell them like a retail deal on the MLS because I have this one beautiful thing called the luxury of time. And if you understand that, it's great. So I told you I'd share the marketing strategy that has created phenomenal success for me in probate. So I don't hide this. And guys, I'm not putting this behind a $10,000 course like every guru does. I could easily do this. And if I followed the guru's method, you all would happily pay me. But I feel this information be free and you guys should rightfully own it. So here's the little tip that I do. I basically say in a conversation, and I say in my probate letter, which is at freewholesaling.com, is did you know you can sell your property before the probate process is complete? Give me a call. I can show you how. And boom, what I did is I create intrigue and curiosity with the seller. And a lot of times when I'm talking to the seller on the phone and they're being reserved and say I want to meet them, maybe they're coming in town. I go, did you know you can sell the property before the probate's complete? And I just shut up. They're like, and here's what they all say to me. You ready? My lawyer told me I had to wait till the probate's complete. I'm like, that's not really true. If you want to meet with me, I'll show you how. I don't tell them how to do it over the phone. I use it as leverage so I can get an appointment or either get a contract because you do not have to wait till the probate's complete. It's a myth. And lawyers use that so they can control their clients and they can get the highest fees possible. I've proven it over and over again. You do not have to wait. It is 100% a lie. There are some technicalities in some states. Can't go into detail on every one of them now. Get familiar with your state probate laws and how it works. But I'm telling you, I've been told probably 1,000 times I cannot do this, and I do it over and over again. And I have an entire database of probates I've closed where I was told you have to wait till the probate's complete. You know what I do is I talk to the attorneys, I talk to the title companies, I've even talked to judges. All you have to do is file a motion to sell the asset. It's different procedures in different states, but I'm here to tell you a probate encompasses all the assets that the deceased has, and then they liquidate them. Obviously, real estate is usually people's number one biggest asset, and for that reason, it is a very draining asset, meaning you have to pay mortgage payments, insurance payments, tax payments, you have to do utility, you have to take care of the lawn, you got to shovel snow. It can become very draining. So the court system has designed for a way if the PR, the personal representative of the executor, wants to liquidate the asset before the probate's done, they have the right to. Nobody ever tells tells them how to do it. And this is the key. We're going to show you how to do it. Now, I don't give instructions. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a title person. This is where I work with that probate team I told you about. And that's how I accomplished it. And by me learning this little skill, it allowed me to do in excess of 300 plus deals. I'm somewhere between 300 and 400. I know that. We don't do a ton of probates. If I could just do exclusively probates, you show a way that I could systematically do it, that's all I would do it. The reality, just so you know, you cannot systematically do probates all over the country because every county is different. And honestly, I used to do 5 counties. I'm down to 3. Sometimes I do 4. It's still a lot of work for our team to do it, but the profit is there and everybody gets paid, so we continue to do it. The only difference between me and most people is I'm just extremely consistent in doing it. I just don't stop. If you're going to do it for 30 days and quit, if you don't get a deal, don't do it. I will tell you, you have to commit 1 year to probates because you only need one phone call to completely change your life for a $50,000 deal. But so many people have this wild expectation that if I do probates, I'm going to get hundreds and hundreds of deals a month. It's just a lie. Like honestly, 2 to 5 calls a month. That's on average what we get per county. And then sometimes, ready for this? I go an entire month without doing a probate deal. I'm okay with it. I look at it for the entire year. So I always tell you direct mail, you got to look at it at least 1 quarter. Probate, you have to do 1 year. Now, here's the good news is if you did 50 letters a month, see 50 times 12, thank God they make a calculator because this is not, that's 600 letters and say each letter cost you 75 cents. Okay. So the true cost to do this campaign, you can do an entire probate campaign under $500. Nobody has an excuse not to do it. Guys, I'm telling you, I've had some of the most incredible deals, like wildest deals I've ever seen in my life. And they were the easiest sellers I've ever dealt with. They're not all easy, but I'm here to tell you it is the most opportunity and I want you to take advantage of it. So if you have any concerns about doing probates and stuff, I'm just telling you, it's not complicated. I thought it was super intimidating and scary. I'm here to tell you, just work with your probate team and you go find people in probate, put them under contract and then help them out. And the more you do, the better it is. And here's the really cool part. If you're working a full-time job or doing it, like this technique you could do, and you could work 2 full-time jobs and do this without missing a beat, because the reality is either you're calling on a tiny little list. And by the way, when I call on a list of like 20 people in a week, we just simply use a phone. Like you don't need complicated like Mojo dialers and stuff like that. It's very, very simple. So guys, that is it on probates.